Hey guys, it's Jess and welcome back to my channel. I hope you've all been having a very happy and productive week. And in today's video, I'm going to be doing a study party. I haven't thrown a study party in so long. It is so overdue and the timing actually works perfectly because we're not just celebrating the fact that we're having a study party, we're celebrating the fact that yesterday Adam and I got engaged. I was so excited to share the news with you guys. I've posted a couple of photos, including the typical ring shots I know you guys wanted to see. I put that onto my Instagram account at studywithjess, so you can go check that out. And to send Adam and I some love, thumbs up this video, guys. Okay, so into today's study party, I have so many questions from you guys. I'm gonna try and get through as many as I possibly can. I'm thinking 10, we'll see how we go. Anyways, let's get started. Okay, so the first question comes from Cody, and it was actually really interesting because I had quite a few of you guys emailing me very similar questions, and it was all based around the issue of doing really well in school in the past and then all of a sudden seeing your grades drop significantly. So Cody wrote in the following. Hey Jess, I've always been a straight A student. In fact, I've always been one of the top in my class. Lately though, my grades are getting worse and the classes are getting a lot harder as well. I feel really low about myself and I feel like everyone expects that I should be doing better than I am. What do I do? So if you guys can relate, comment below because I really think that everyone goes through this at some point during their education, whether it's moving into high school, starting university or college, or just starting another grade. I think that the difficulty of our subjects can change, and even the subjects that we might choose to pick up along the way might actually require us to learn quite a few different skills, and that can also be pretty challenging. So I wanted to mention something, and I think I've said this on my channel before in a previous video, but when I actually started university and I started studying psychology, I originally was an A+ student in high school, and then I had a really big shock when I started studying at uni because I had to take up a whole lot of different subjects that I didn't know. They were all unfamiliar to me. I had to learn a lot of different kinds of new assessments and new skills, and then there were the subjects like statistics, which was particularly challenging as well. So I actually had a big shock and noticed that my grades went from an A+ average to more like C's and B's, and at first year I was really devastated. I felt like I was studying so hard, I was putting in the hours, I got frustrated, I was disappointed, and I felt like whatever I did, it didn't really matter because it just wasn't paying off. All that hard work wasn't showing when I would get my assessments back. Now I'm happy to say that I did keep on persevering. I actually met with my lecturers and tutors, and I really tried to make the most of all of that time that they set aside for their students after class, because I noticed that after about 6 months, I really did see an improvement in my grades, and then by the time I was finishing my degree, I was back on top and I ended up absolutely blitzing my statistics exam. I was so thrilled. I actually got in the top 5% for that exam, and there were like 220 students in my course. So what I wanted to say is I can completely empathize with what you guys are going through. If you are disappointed in your grades and you're not really sure why you're not getting consistent marks like you were in the past, I really advise that you make the most of the time that your teachers and tutors have for you and that you also persevere. But the other thing I wanted to say was you really need to let go, and this is for anything in life, guys, you need to let go of expectations that you put on yourself and also the expectations that other people have of you. Because when you actually place these expectations on yourself, you put so much unnecessary pressure on yourself to perform, you really suck the joy out of learning and studying, and you become completely grade focused rather than looking at all the skills that you're there to acquire and all of the knowledge that you're there to learn. So I really encourage you guys to let go of those expectations and just do your best. Have faith. If you guys have been getting really good grades in the past, then there is no doubt in my mind that you are capable of getting those good grades in the near future. And I mean near future, like really, really soon. So I really think it's important that you don't forget all of your wins and focus on what you might be thinking of failures at the moment, because they're not. It's just part of your learning experience, and sometimes it just takes a little bit of time to get back on top and get the hang of these new subjects and skills, and you just have to be patient and know that you're not a different person all of a sudden. Your brain didn't change. You still have the ability to perform really well, and it's just a short period in your life that you're going through that's a bit more challenging, but it's temporary. Alright, question number 2 comes from Liana, and this is all about exam anxiety. So I'm an expert in this, guys. And Liana asked the following. She said, "Hey Jess, how do you stop yourself from going blank during exams? I always open my exam booklet and then it's like everything has fallen out of my mind. What do I do? Please, please help. So unfortunately, this is a really common challenge that a lot of students experience at some point. And I think it all comes down to the fact that we put a lot of pressure on ourselves, we get very easily overwhelmed, and then we begin to doubt in our abilities, and that has a really detrimental effect on our entire exam performance. So I wanted to give you guys a couple of tips or a bit of advice for how to deal with exam anxiety and nerves, or those moments where you feel like you're about to go blank and you just don't really know what to do and you begin to panic. So before you guys open your exam booklet, the first thing that I recommend you do, and this is something I do regardless of if I was feeling nervous or anxious or really cool and calm, is to just do some deep breathing. And by doing deep breathing exercises like breathing into the count of 4 and then exhaling to the count of 4, or even lengthening your exhalations to be longer than your inhalations, breathing in 4, breathing out 6, that's actually going to switch on your parasympathetic nervous system, which is the calming response in your body. And also it's going to help you feel more grounded. It brings your attention to the present moment, and it just helps you to filter through all of that mental chatter, such as all of the self-doubts that begin to arise when you sit down for an exam. And then another thing to remember is when you start to feel really nervous, it's often because we see exams and tests as these really big, scary things, but they're not. I feel like a lot of students have these irrational beliefs that their exams or tests are going to measure their self-worth, and it really affects their level of confidence, and it's going to allow them to see themselves as being better or worse than other peers, and that's really not the case. So your tests and exams are actually there to measure how effectively you've studied particular information and how well you've been able to retain that information over time. It's there to allow your teachers to see whether you've understood the information, whether you need some extra help, whether they've actually used effective teaching methods as well. It is purely a method for measuring information about a particular subject. So it's important that you have the correct perception of what these assessments actually are and why they're being given to you and why you need to sit them in the first place. Question number 3 comes from Sienna, and she has a question relating to note-taking methods. So she asked the following. She said, "Hey Jess, love your channel so much. You've really helped me with your studies." Thanks, lovely. And I just wanted to know, do you use different note-taking methods for each class? If yes, what's the difference between taking notes for subjects such as English, science, or maths? Thank you so much. Love you. Alright, so that's a really good question, and thinking back to my days of studying, because they were quite a while ago, whenever I would take my notes, they actually would differ depending on my subjects. So the whole idea was very similar. I would still write my weekly summaries, I would still condense my class notes and my weekly readings, I would still use a lot of colours and annotate my notes as well, making sure important information stands out, and I would use a lot of subheadings too, just to break down the information. But when it came to subjects such as maths or science, I would use a lot more visual representations of the information. I'm a big fan of visual techniques. I think that visual techniques like drawing diagrams, charts, and adding illustrations really does help to simplify the information, and also it makes it more meaningful and puts everything into perspective so that you're actually able to study it much more efficiently. So I don't know where all of my high school notes are. If I can find them, I will definitely make a video on this and show you my old notes from school, but I can guarantee you if I were to find my biology notes, then they would definitely be full of different illustrations. And then again, when I was studying maths and statistics in university, I would always make sure to have different illustrations and graphs underneath my notes that related to particular methods of measurement. So for example, if I was learning about linearity, I can guarantee you there would be a little graph with the little line going straight through it, and it would say y equals mx plus c, all that sort of stuff. It was all there. And then when it came to English, I wouldn't really have any illustrations to include. It was more about summarizing information and then highlighting the most important content that needed to be focused on. So for example, if I would have to write essays, I would always include important quotes and also make sure just to integrate my class notes and my weekly readings as well. I would also have a lot of annotations, so a lot of post-it notes and a lot of little underlining and asterisks in all of my texts that I was reading and studying as well for like my final exams. So I think that that was much more content focused, and it was more about understanding the main themes, ideas, concepts, and even issues that were related to the texts we were studying. So there was a bit of a difference between my science subjects and my English subjects. And then another subject that was sort of in between the two was psychology, because there were a lot of definitions and terms that I had to remember, and I would want to make sure that they stood out in my notes, so I would highlight them or underline them. But then there was also a lot of information relating to the brain, so I would want to draw the brain out and I would color coordinate all of my notes to the different sections that we were learning, like the frontal lobe was blue and the occipital lobe was orange. So it really just depended on the content, but I think if there is a visual representation that can be included, I would definitely include it, and just be mindful of how content rich the subject is versus subjects that have very specific definitions or methods of assessment or equations like maths. It will differ, so make sure to just be mindful of that when you're writing all of your notes. But again, the main thing was that my notes were tidy, they were well organized, and they made sense to me, and they had a lot of different colors. I was adding a lot of vibrancy and highlighting important information in my notes, but also integrating all of my readings too. Question 4 comes from Chloe, and she asked, "Hey Jess, how do you create your own study schedule?" So if you guys want me to make a dedicated video on how to create an exam study schedule, let me know, because I feel like I've had a lot of requests on my Instagram account for this already, but I'm just not really sure if you want a dedicated video. So if a lot of you guys do, then I will definitely add that to my list and it will get done very soon. But as far as making a study schedule, I don't know if, Chloe, you're asking regarding your daily homework or you're actually preparing for exams. So I'll give you some tips for both of them. Now, when it comes to creating a study schedule for completing your homework, it's important to write this in your diary or planner and schedule it. Make it like little mini appointments and also block it out. So if you have English homework, psychology homework, and maths homework, then maybe from 4 till 5:30 you want to focus on English, then 5:30 till 6 you want to have a bath or a shower, then from 6 till 7 you want to focus on your maths homework, including all of your study breaks in this time frame, by the way, guys, and then 7 till 8 is dinner, and so on and so on. So when you actually block it out in your diary, you're going to be more likely to commit to it, and also it really does reduce your feelings of stress or overwhelm, especially if you're looking at all of your homework just like a long list and you don't really know where to start. So even today, if I have lots of appointments or work to-dos, I'll actually schedule it into my planner. P.S. I did make a plan with me video. If you want to check that out, it will be a card up there or a clickable video somewhere here at the end of the video. But yeah, I did make a video on that because I wanted to show you guys how to actually structure your afternoons after school and also how to be very productive. So make sure that you're doing that, and do check out my previous video. But then as far as creating an exam study schedule, I think it's important to access your unit guide or course outline and make sure to use that as a reference for all of the subtopics you need to revise. But I do think it's important that you start roughly 3 weeks before your exams so that you're not going to be cramming at the last minute, and also decide what subjects to revise every day, because you probably won't be able to revise all of your exam subjects each day. So you really need to decide how you're going to divvy up your time and work out what to focus on each afternoon or each morning, and even slot that into a calendar and hang it above your desk just so that you can actually see what you need to accomplish, and you know that everything's going to be revised in time as long as you follow your plan. The next question is all about goal setting, and I really want to make a dedicated video on this too. So again, if you want a goal setting video, comment below. But this question comes from Izzy, and she wanted to know my recommendations for setting yourself some goals for school. So I am a huge advocate for goal setting. I always write down my goals every year. I like to set aside time at the very start of the year, and then any other goals that I decide along the way, I'll make sure that I write them down as well. Now, it's not really necessary to set yourself goals only once a year, like the start of a new year. So whenever you feel like you want to make some important changes or you want to work towards accomplishing something, make sure you do write it down and display it somewhere like your vision board. So I know that for a lot of students, starting a new school year, starting a new school, starting high school, or even starting university or college can be a little bit daunting, and the reason I love the idea of setting goals before you start a new academic year is because it gives you something to work towards, and it creates this more positive and proactive mindset. So if there's anything in particular that you really want to accomplish this year, then make sure to write it down, write it at the start of your planner even, so that every time you open your planner, you can put it above your timetable. And I think it's a great way just to take responsibility for your studies and your learning, and to really get the most out of this year. Alright, I think we have time for one more question. I feel like I'm really pushing the boundaries here. This question comes from Josh, and it's all about general exams or completing exams in order to get a scholarship. So for all of you that have been emailing me asking for tips on how to ace upcoming exams if you're applying for a scholarship, or you've got a general exam that you have to sit at the end of your school year, these tips are for you. Alright, so Josh asked the following. He said, "Hey Jess, thanks so much for all of your amazing content. It's really helped me with my studies." Awesome, Josh. Thank you. I just wanted to know, how do I prepare for an upcoming scholarship test? I'm a little bit nervous and it's really important that I succeed in this exam. What are your tips? Thanks so much. Okay, so when it comes to assessments for getting a scholarship or sitting an exam in order to get an acceptance into another school or university, or just a general exam that all of you guys have to sit, and that's something that might be provided by your government, it's important to remember a couple of things. So first off, these exams are not prepared and written by your class teachers, which means that the questions actually could be worded a little bit differently. And it's really important that you don't allow yourself to feel like you've been caught off guard. So if you don't understand something at the start, chances are you actually do have the knowledge to solve that question, and you just have to dig a little bit deeper. So if you start to get a little bit confused, it might be worthwhile to put a little asterisk next to that question and move on. Let your subconscious just have a bit of a think about that question and then come back to it if you have some time later on. Now, of course, these tests are different to your class tests and exams because they're there to measure a range of different areas of studies. So provided that you have been applying yourself in class for a while, there's no reason why these tests shouldn't reflect all of the hard work that you've been putting in over the years. I know it's a lot harder to prepare for these exams as far as knowing exactly what they're going to be testing you on. If your teachers have a bit of an idea, it's great if they can tell you, but usually it's not as simple as going home and learning these 10 definitions or writing this particular essay for that essay question. So it's really important just to have that trust and confidence in yourself and know that all that hard work, it pays off. So if you know that you're a dedicated student and that you work hard, then it's just about having the confidence in yourself and just doing your absolute best on the day. Alright guys, I know I wanted to try and get through 10 questions. I didn't make it because I feel like this video is just going to go on and on and on. So I'm going to leave it there, but if you guys have any more questions that you want answered, which I'm sure you guys do, then please leave them down below. You can even send them to me on social media, on Instagram or Twitter at studywithjess. I'm always compiling all of your questions and I do my best to either email you directly some answers or post them up on my blog on Seated Educationary, my Stationary Lines website, or also in my upcoming study party videos. So make sure to stay tuned for my next study party. I hope you guys did enjoy. I know it's been a long awaited video. It's well overdue, but it's time to celebrate. So I thought, why not throw a party, a study party? And make sure to subscribe to my channel if you're not already subscribed. Turn on notifications as well, please. And you can click this image over here to check out my previous video. Alright guys, have a very happy and productive week. I love you so much. And I'm so excited to be having another study party again and also share the news that Adam and I are officially engaged. It hasn't really sunk in, this is amazing. But yeah, check out my Instagram if you want to see some more special photos as well. Alright, I will see you next week with another one of my videos. Love you guys. Bye.